Hi everybody, this is Teacher Harry and welcome back to my English lessons where I try to help you to get a better understanding of the English language so you can improve your conversational English, your business English, all about expressions, idiomatic phrases, whatever it takes. It'll help you to prepare for those all-important interview questions that you might get asked if you're looking for a new job. So whatever you need, you come to the right place. So before I move on, just remember you can always listen to me on my podcast and you can watch me on my YouTube channel. Okay, so what are we going to talk to you about today? Well, we're going to talk about some idioms. In particular, we're going to talk about idioms connected with weather. And as always, people love talking about the weather, particularly English people and particularly British English people, because the weather is always a problem. So we're going to talk about weather idioms in English. I'm going to read them from a list here for you, okay? Then I'll go through them one by one and I'll give you hopefully some examples of what they mean. Okay, so we've got a frosty reception. A frosty reception. My mind is in a fog. My mind is in a fog. To steal somebody's thunder. To have a face like thunder. Right as rain. It never rains, but it pours. It never rains, but it pours. Cut no ice with somebody. To be on thin ice. Chase rainbows or chasing rainbows. To get wind of something. To be out in the cold. Out in the cold. And finally, under the sun. Okay, so I'm going to take each of them in turn and I'll give you the meaning of it as an idiom and some examples. Okay, let's get started. So the first one, a frosty reception. Okay, well, frosty is the word we use to describe cold weather. When you look out the window in the morning and you see that white semi-ice on the ground and the temperature is -1 or -2, it's a frosty morning, okay? But when we get a frosty reception from somebody, it means we get a cold reception. It's not warm. They're not so glad to see you. So you might have had a row with your brother and sister, and then you decide to ring them either to apologize or just to see how things are. And when the phone is answered, yeah, oh, hi, it's Harry here. I was going to talk to you. I really don't have time. I'll call you again. So that might be described as a bit of a frosty reception, okay? So when you get a frosty reception, it means the person that you're talking to isn't so happy to see you, isn't so happy to hear from you, or is really not so interested in talking to you. So that's a frosty reception. We can also have frosty look on their face, yeah? When you look at somebody and they're a bit of a frosty look on their face. Or they could have a frosty tone in the voice, yes? Yeah, yeah. So they're not so warm and they're not so interested in talking to you. So frosty can be lots of things. Frosty reception, a frosty look on somebody's face, or a frosty tone to their voice. Okay. My mind is in a fog. Well, if you've ever been involved in fog and you've driven in fog, you know how dangerous it is and also how difficult it is to see anything. And if it's a thick fog, like the type of fog you get in London in October and November time of the year, well, then you'll know it's really, really difficult, okay? So if your mind is in a fog, you can't really see things clearly, okay? So, oh, my mind is in a fog today. I don't know where I am. I just can't think straight. So that'd be often the way you'd hear people talking about it. They might have a lot of things on their mind. They might have a lot of work to do. They might feel a little bit stressed and they really say, oh, my mind's in a complete fog. You know, I just can't think clearly. I think I'll go home and I'll lie down. Okay, so my mind is in a fog. To steal somebody's thunder, okay? Well, when we steal somebody's thunder, it means we sort of take the advantage when somebody thought that they were in the driving seat. Thunder makes a lot of noise, yeah? So if you've heard thunder, you get the crashing and the rolling of thunder. So if somebody has a really good idea and they're about to tell everybody in the office or in the group about their idea, and you suddenly pipe up and say, oh, I have a good idea, blah, 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 and your idea is exactly the same as your colleagues, well, then you will be said to have stolen or taken her thunder or his thunder. Okay, so when you steal an idea by accident or by design, or you get all the attention, then you're going to steal the other person's thunder. Okay, so particularly in that situation where somebody has a very, very good idea, they want to present it to the other members of the team or the group, whoever it might be, and just before they get the opportunity to present it, you or somebody else comes in and says, you know what, this is what I think we should do. And the idea is very similar or exactly the same as what your colleague had, and then your colleague's face drops a mile because, yeah, someone has stolen my thunder. And when the chairman of the meeting or the manager, whoever's organized the meeting, comes around to that person and says, well, what's your idea? And he said, well, he's just stolen my thunder. I was going to say something very similar. So here are my ideas, but they're actually exactly the same as your colleagues, to steal somebody's thunder. Now, still talking about the theme of thunder, we can also refer to people who have a face like thunder. Okay, so you can just imagine, because as I said, thunder is very loud, it's crashing, it's banging, it's making a lot of noise. Yeah, okay. So when somebody has a face like thunder, you don't want to go near them because they're obviously in a bad mood. They're obviously very angry. You might not know what it's about, but you can certainly tell by the look on their face that it's not going to be pleasant. So when you come in the morning and you've spent an hour or so there, and one of your colleagues comes in, you say, if I was you, I wouldn't go near the boss at the moment. He just came in 10 minutes ago with a face like thunder or looking like thunder. So he's obviously had a bad experience in the car, or he's had an argument with the wife, or something's happened because he isn't in a very happy mood. So, give him a wide berth, meaning stay away from him because, he's got a face like thunder. Okay, so somebody in a bad mood, somebody looking very grumpy, not to be approached. Okay, to be right as rain. Okay, so rain isn't so pleasant, and when we use the expression to be right as rain means everything's okay, we're fine. Yeah, okay, so it's just one of those expressions we use in English a lot. There's no real relevance to it because nobody likes the rain, unless you're a farmer, of course, and you like the rain during the summer. But to be right as rain means to be okay. Yeah, so perhaps you've been out sick for a couple of days, and when you come back to your workplace, your colleagues are very keen to know how you are, and they say, oh, how are you? You've been sick for a few days. Is everything okay? I'm as right as rain. It was just a little bit of a flu, a little bit of a head cold, nothing really serious, but I thought it was better if I stayed at home rather than coming here and infecting everybody. Okay? So, but yeah, I'm as right as rain. Or you could say, well, look, I'm not 100%, but I'll be as right as rain in a few days, a couple of Panadol or whatever it might be, a bit of rest, and I'll be as right as rain, meaning I'll be back to my old cheerful self in no time at all, 100%. And then again, sticking to the theme of rain, we have another idiom. It never rains, but it pours. It never rains, but it pours. When it's pouring with rain, it's really heavy, heavy rain. A downpour, we call it. It's pouring with rain. So it's really non-stop. And when we say it never rains, but it pours, it means that, when there's some bad news, it usually gets worse. Okay. So I've had some bad news and then I had more bad news. And so just one piece of bad news on top of the other. So, I went home on the bus and I realized I'd dropped my wallet or my purse in the street. So I had no credit card. I hadn't got my bus ticket. And then when I got home, I realized my keys for the house were actually in the wallet or the purse. So I had to wait until my partner came home to get in. Yeah. And then when I got in, I tried to get onto the bank to cancel my bank cards. And guess what? The internet connection was down and I couldn't get through. So one problem after the other. It never rains, but it pours. So when there's a series of mishaps, a series of problems, 1, 2, 3, whatever it happens to be, you can use that expression, that idiom. It never rains, but it pours. Things start getting bad and they go from bad to worse. Okay? To cut no ice with somebody. Well, when somebody or something cuts no ice with you, it means it makes no impression. Yeah, so you're not really interested. So perhaps your friend is talking about his new girlfriend. He said, oh yes, I've met this really, really nice girl. Oh, great. And you never guess what, her father, he's a really, really important guy. He works in the embassy. I think he's the ambassador or something, because, he's really high up. And you say, that cuts no ice with me. I wouldn't care. I'd be more interested in, is the girl a nice girl? Is she pleasant? Does she like the same things as me? I wouldn't necessarily want to go out with the girl just because her father happens to be the ambassador. Yeah. So that sort of thing doesn't cut any ice with me, meaning that sort of thing doesn't make any impression on me. I'm more interested in the person than the position. Yeah. Okay. So it cuts no ice with me. It cuts no ice with somebody. It doesn't make any impression. It doesn't make you feel better or want to do something in particular. Okay. Or you could say, if somebody's looking to get a salary increase, or they're trying to get a promotion, so they're going to be really, really friendly towards the boss, bring him coffee, do everything he wants, and then somebody comes up to you and says, look, that'll cut no ice with the boss. You're better off just going in and asking him for your salary rise or asking him about the promotion. There's no point trying to make him feel better. Just go in and ask. So, to cut no ice with somebody. Okay, to be on thin ice. Well, ice can be thick or ice can be thin, and you'll only know when you stand on it, yeah? And if you stand on it and it's thin ice, then it's going to crack very easily, and you're going to fall into it. So when we use the idiom to be on thin ice, you have to be really, really careful, because if you're on thin ice, the likely thing to happen is that the ice will crack and you're going to get your feet wet at the very least, and at very worst, every part of you will get wet. Okay, so when you're on thin ice, you're in a dangerous situation. So people use it to say to you, oh, look, be very careful, you're on thin ice there. I wouldn't say anything else, because that's certainly going to upset the boss. Okay, or if you come home to your wife and you've been late for a couple of nights, and you come home the third night and you're late again. Yeah, I think I'm on thin ice here. I said I'd be home early and I'm home a little bit later than I expected. So I think I'm going to get a frosty reception when I get home. Okay, so to be on thin ice means you're really pushing the boundaries a little bit, and you're bound to get a little bit of a, say, frosty reception. Okay, you can also be on thin ice when you're not quite sure as to what you should be doing. You're not quite sure how other people will react. It could go well, but it could go badly. So you're just taking a little bit of a chance. So when you take a chance on something, I think we're on thin ice here with that customer. If we don't respond to him very quickly, I think he could leave, so we need to be really, really careful how we approach this. We need to make sure he's happy. We need to get what he wants done and then let him know, because that'll calm him down a bit. But if we don't react quickly, we could lose him. So we're on thin ice. Chase rainbows. Well, rainbows are a thing that people talk about. They love to see them after a rain shower, all the beautiful colours, and there's always the little story that there's a pot of gold, a magical pot of gold at the end of the rainbow. But of course, we can never get to the end of the rainbow because it disappears very quickly, so nobody gets the chance to, unfortunately, pocket that little pot of gold. So when we're chasing rainbows, it means we're chasing something that probably will not happen. Okay, so somebody wanting to get that dream job, somebody who wants to win the lotto, buy the big expensive car, live in the big expensive house, go on the world tour. This is what chasing rainbows is all about. They are dreams, and occasionally somebody will win the lotto, of course, but the chances are very, very remote. So, somebody might say, look, I think it's time you stopped chasing rainbows, settle down, just accept life the way it is and get on with it. The person sitting there over the cup of coffee. Oh, I wish I could win the lotto. Oh, if I won the lotto now, I'd buy this car and that car, and I'd pack in my job, and I'd be on the first flight to South America. Of course, we all would. But unfortunately, it doesn't happen. So we can sit there dreaming, chasing rainbows, or just get on with life. So chasing rainbows. To get wind of something. Well, when the wind blows, you can usually feel either the warm air during the summer, definitely the cold air during the winter, the rain when it's coming, the scent of something from the fields, good or bad. So when you get wind of something as the idiom, it means you hear about something or you find out about something. So yeah, you go home to your partner and you start talking about work and how's it going, and you say, yeah, I think there's something going to happen in the next couple of weeks. I'm not quite sure what it is. One of the guys got wind of something. He overheard a conversation when he was walking past an office door the other day, and he couldn't quite hear it all. And of course, he didn't want to hang around too long, but he seemed to think that something big is going down. So either we're going to take somebody over or we're going to do, I don't know what, but there's definitely some noise about it. And there've been some strange people coming in and out of the building recently, so there must be something happening. Okay, so to get wind of something is to hear about something that you perhaps shouldn't have heard. You might have been eavesdropping, or you overheard something in an elevator, in a coffee shop, and perhaps you picked up the wrong end of the stick, or you got a hold of the wrong end of the story, but you definitely think there's some truth in it, so you've got wind of something. Yeah, okay, so you know what's going to happen, and something's going to change, but you're not quite sure what it is. Okay. Out in the cold. Well, if you're out in the cold, literally without a jacket, you're going to feel the cold and you're going to run home, or you're going to run or walk quickly just to keep warm. When you're using the out in the cold as an idiom, it means that you're not included in something. Okay, so you might have told your boss at work that you're not so happy and that you're looking around for another job. So he stops inviting you to some meetings. So you feel a little bit out in the cold. You're left out because he doesn't want to include you in the meetings, because he thinks that you're going to leave and going to leave very quickly. Okay, you can be out in the cold with your family if you haven't turned up for a few family events. You missed somebody's birthday, you didn't come for the Christmas celebration as you promised, so you're feeling a little out in the cold. You might be the black sheep of the family, yeah? Okay, so you can feel a little bit out in the cold as a result of that. Or perhaps your friends are, off doing things, and you've got a steady girlfriend, and then you want to sort of get back into the fold with the guys, but they're off doing other things, so you feel a little bit out in the cold. You feel a little bit left out of things. Okay, so when you're out in the cold, you're a little bit left out. You're not included, you're excluded, so you're feeling that wind of change, to be out in the cold. And then finally, under the sun. So when we're walking under the sun, we can feel very warm, but the real meaning as an idiom to be under the sun is as follows. Okay, if you can't find something, or there's something you want to buy quite urgently, you could say something like, I've searched everywhere under the sun for that particular wine that he likes, and I just can't find it anywhere. I promised I'd buy it for him for his birthday, but I guess I'm going to have to get something else. But I really have searched everywhere under the sun. Or you're trying to find a photograph of the school gang, and you've got a reunion coming up in a couple of weeks' time, and you haven't met each other for 5 or 7 years, and you really want to get the photograph. I'm really annoyed. I've searched everywhere under the sun that I can possibly think of to try and find that photograph, and I can't find it anywhere. When we search under the sun or everywhere under the sun, it means we go to great lengths and great trouble to try and find something, but without much success. So, under the sun. Okay, so those are the idioms, the weather-related idioms. So let me give them to you one more time, very quickly. A frosty reception. My mind is in a fog. To steal someone's thunder. To have a face like thunder. To be right as rain. It never rains, but it pours. Cut no ice with somebody. To be on thin ice. To chase rainbows. To get wind of something. To be out in the cold. And finally, under the sun. So all idiomatic expressions, weather idioms in English. Okay, so hopefully you've enjoyed those and you can practice them and hopefully put them to good use. And as always, I really appreciate you watching the videos. And if you need to contact me, well, of course, you can do so on www.englishlessonviaskype.com. Always happy to hear from you. Always happy to help you. And as always, join me again soon.